the genius behind Game of Thrones, the life story of George R.R. Martin. Before Game of Thrones became one of the biggest shows in television history, there was a man with a typewriter, a dream, and an imagination so vast that it would one day reshape fantasy storytelling forever. His name is George Raymond Richard Martin, the man who gave the world dragons, kings, betrayal, and unforgettable characters like Jon Snow, Tyrion Lannister, and Daenerys Targaryen. But behind his worldwide fame lies a story of struggle, creativity, and persistence. This is the full life story of George R.R. Martin, the genius behind A Song of Ice and Fire. Early life and childhood. George R.R. Martin was born on September 20th, 1948, in Bayonne, New Jersey, USA. He grew up in a small house near the docks, in a working-class family. His father, Raymond Collins Martin, was a longshoreman, and his mother, Margaret Brady Martin, took care of the home. The family didn't have much money, and George often described his neighborhood as rough and noisy. But in that small corner of the world, a young boy found escape. Not through travel or games, but through his imagination. As a child, George loved reading comic books and science fiction magazines. He would buy them whenever he could, and soon, he began creating his own stories. He sold little monster tales to neighborhood kids for a few pennies, writing them by hand and reading them aloud like performances. These early experiments were the seeds of his future storytelling genius. Martin's imagination was fueled by authors like J.R.R. Tolkien, Robert A. Heinlein, and H.P. Lovecraft. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings especially influenced him. The idea that one person could build an entire world with history, languages, and cultures fascinated the young George. He dreamed of creating his own universe someday, one that felt just as real and alive. Education and early career. George attended Northwestern University, where he studied journalism and graduated in 1970 with a master's degree. During college, he continued to write stories, but not yet for fame or money. He simply loved writing. After graduating, he became a teacher and later worked as a chess tournament director. But even then, he never stopped creating worlds and characters on paper. In the 1970s, Martin began publishing short stories in magazines. His story A Song for Laia won the Hugo Award in 1975 and brought him recognition in the science fiction community. His early work explored themes of loneliness, morality, and the human condition, ideas that would later define his greatest creations. However, life as a writer wasn't easy. The income was unstable, and despite winning awards, Martin struggled financially. But he refused to quit. He kept writing novels, short stories, and screenplays, all while dreaming of bigger projects. Hollywood years and struggles. In the 1980s, George R.R. Martin moved to Hollywood to work as a screenwriter. He joined the writing teams for shows like The Twilight Zone and Beauty and the Beast. For a time, it seemed like his career was finally stable. But Hollywood wasn't kind to creativity. Martin's ideas were often considered too big, too expensive, or too dark for television budgets at that time. He grew frustrated. Many of his scripts were rejected because producers thought they couldn't be filmed. Martin later said that working in television taught him one big lesson: never let budget limit imagination. This frustration would eventually lead to his greatest masterpiece. By the late 1980s, he decided to return to writing novels, a medium where no one could tell him what was too big or too expensive. The birth of A Song of Ice and Fire. In 1991, Martin began writing a story that started with a single image: a young boy watching as his father executes a man. That image became the opening chapter of A Game of Thrones. The idea grew rapidly. Martin began building an entire continent, then multiple continents, each with its own families, cultures, and histories. He called the series A Song of Ice and Fire. The first book, A Game of Thrones, was published in 1996. It introduced readers to the 7 kingdoms of Westeros, a brutal, realistic world where noble families fight for power and survival. Unlike traditional fantasy, Martin's world had no clear heroes or villains. Every character was complex, flawed, and human. Readers were shocked. Heroes died unexpectedly, villains showed humanity, and the story refused to follow predictable paths. The series broke every fantasy rule, and people loved it. Critics praised its depth, realism, and boldness. Over the next few years, Martin released A Clash of Kings, 1998, A Storm of Swords, 2000, A Feast for Crows, 2005, and A Dance with Dragons, 2011. Each book grew darker, richer, and more intricate. The Rise of Game of Thrones. In 2007, HBO decided to adapt A Song of Ice and Fire into a television series titled Game of Thrones. The show premiered in 2011, and the world changed overnight. The series quickly became a global phenomenon. Viewers were captivated by its political intrigue, shocking plot twists, and unforgettable characters. George R. R. Martin became a household name. His books sold millions of copies, translated into more than 40 languages. For Martin, this was both a dream and a challenge. Fans now demanded faster book releases. The show began to outpace the novels, and Martin faced immense pressure to finish The Winds of Winter, the next book in the series. He worked tirelessly, often explaining that his process was slow because he wanted every detail perfect. Despite the pressure, Martin remained the man behind the myth. Away from fame, George R. R. Martin is known for his warm, gentle personality. He loves collecting books, attending fan conventions, and supporting local causes in his hometown of Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he owns an old movie theater called the Jean Cocteau Cinema. He also supports young writers and artists, encouraging them to take creative risks. In interviews, Martin often speaks about how imagination is the most powerful tool humanity possesses. Despite his massive success, he continues to write every day, slowly but steadily building the rest of his saga. Martin is also known for his trademark look, the flat cap, suspenders, and a soft smile that hides a mind full of dragons and kingdoms. He jokes about being a slow writer, but his fans know that his attention to detail is what makes his work so timeless. Themes and legacy. George R. R. Martin's writing stands apart because of its realism and emotional truth. His stories remind us that power always has a price, and that no one, no matter how noble, is safe from fate. In Westeros, heroes die, villains rise, and the lines between good and evil blur. This philosophy reflects Martin's view of real life, that the world is complex, unpredictable, and morally gray. It's why Game of Thrones resonated with millions worldwide. His influence on modern fantasy cannot be overstated. After A Song of Ice and Fire, countless authors adopted his style of political intrigue, multi-layered characters, and brutal realism. He reshaped fantasy from fairy tale simplicity into mature storytelling that deals with power, corruption, and humanity, challenges, and continuing journey. Even now, decades after the first book, fans around the world eagerly await The Winds of Winter. Martin has confirmed that he is still working on it, determined to complete the saga the right way. He often says he doesn't rush art. He believes in quality over speed. Beyond A Song of Ice and Fire, Martin has written many other books and edited anthologies like Wild Cards, a shared superhero universe that began in the 1980s and continues to this day. His career spans over 5 decades, and his passion for storytelling remains as strong as ever. Though some fans worry about whether the series will be completed, Martin's legacy is already secure. His worlds, characters, and themes have inspired millions, proving that one person's imagination can truly change the world. Conclusion: The legacy of a dreamer. From a small apartment in New Jersey to the grand castles of Westeros, George R. R. Martin's journey is one of passion, persistence, and imagination. He showed that even a shy, book-loving boy can become one of the greatest storytellers in history. His life teaches us that dreams take time, art takes patience, and success is built on years of quiet work. George R. R. Martin turned his childhood love for stories into a universe that now lives in the hearts of millions. As he once said, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one." And through his words, George R. R. Martin gave us all 1,000 worlds to live in. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of George R. R. Martin's incredible life, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of great authors and storytellers. Until next time, winter is coming, but stories never end.